Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, some TV, and streaming, all sorts of good stuff. And we are, of course, graced to be joined today with the presence of one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Well, you know what, John? Every day, more cool stuff comes our way. And this morning, we'll talk about it later, was one of those same days. It seems like every day something exciting is dropping, and I'm there for it, sir. I'm there for it.
Tell us a little bit there about that shirt you've got on there. You and I were talking about this shirt a bit earlier.
This is my Flower Power Gundam shirt. You know, I'm a big Gundam fan. One of my favorite Gundams is the new Gundam from Char's Counterattack, and I am a huge fan of Gundam. And this was kind of a Flower Power Gundam shirt, like a hippie Gundam shirt. I don't see as the Gundams were participating. They're just, after all, mobile suits, but I don't think they were in San Francisco in 1967 participating in that summer of love and listening to bands like the Jefferson Airplane. But you know what? Why not mash them together? So this is my feel-good Gundam shirt that reminds me of the power of humanity triumphing over the evil principality of Zeon. Or they're the good guys, depending on which side of it you're coming from. So there you go.
Excellent shirt. And guys, we hope you are having a Flower Power excellent kind of day yourself. And by the way, Daniel Skinner sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Daniel. Anyway, guys, we've got a number of things to get to, so let's not waste any time and get to our main topics. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with the main topic. See, whenever you come across a big topic, story, or issue that you think we should have as a main topic here on the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number one, shall we? And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Carlos, who writes, "Hello, John. Big fan since the AMC days. Thank you so much, Carlos. Taylor Sheridan is one of my favorite filmmakers. He's becoming one of my favorites too, Carlos. He's made Wind River, which is awesome. Sicario 1, awesome. Sicario 2, okay. And Hell or High Water, completely awesome. Well, today was released the trailer for his upcoming movie that he's directing, Those Who Wish Me Dead, from Warner Brothers. I loved it, and it looks more action-packed than the rest of his films. I love the cast and the premise of the film. Thanks, and have a nice day." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, Taylor Sheridan is one of these guys that, I mean, whether it was Sicario or Hell or High Water, I mean, again, Rob, we gush about Hell or High Water all the time. Hell or High Water is amazing. If you've not seen it, you must do yourself that favor and make sure you watch Hell or High Water. It's absolutely fantastic. And of course, Wind River was absolutely amazing. Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, just incredible stuff. Well, we've had our eyes on this one for a little while now, Those Who Wish Me Dead, because the premise sounds pretty cool, and it's also, of course, got Angelina Jolie, one of the premier A-list actresses in the business that hasn't done a lot of live action the last number of years, Rob. But anyway, Those Who Wish Us Dead, the trailer came out today. Here's a little bit of the write-up. This comes to us from IndieWire, who writes, "The official synopsis for Those Who Wish Me Dead from Warner Brothers bills the drama as a female-driven neo-Western," which is right up Sheridan's alley, "a female-driven neo-Western set against a wildfire in the Montana wilderness," adding, "A teenage murder witness finds himself pursued by twin assassins in the Montana wilderness, with a survival expert tasked with protecting him and a forest fire threatening to consume them all." That, of course, comes to us from IndieWire. And Rob, I got to tell you, the trailer lived up to it. I mean, I've been excited about this thing. I really do enjoy Angelina Jolie. And of course, we're going to see her a little bit later this year in Eternals as well. But to see her in something like this is also, I mean, pretty great. And again, this is Taylor Sheridan. He's going back to that sort of Western motif sort of feeling thing. The trailer did what it needed to do for me. It got me invested. It told us the idea of the movie. Here's what this movie is about. It gave us a good little bit of an introduction to the significant characters into it. It gave us a little bit of the flavor of what we can expect in it. It's a great trailer. I enjoyed it a lot, and I am very, very much looking forward to this movie. Rob, you had a chance to check out the trailer for Those Who Wish Me Dead. What did you think about it?
Dude, I loved it. And I mean, what an interesting milieu for this movie to take place in. But what I really liked was the cast. It's not just Angelina Jolie. It's John Barenthal, Nicholas Hoult, Aidan Gillen from Game of Thrones, and of course the ubiquitous crazy dude to show up in weird, wacky places, Tyler Perry. Looks like he's playing some kind of I mean, I love Tyler Perry in Gone Girl. He was so good.
Loved him in that.
You know, he was so good. I might not have loved him as Alex Cross as much as I wanted to, but when Tyler Perry walks in and plays these secondary, like, whether he's a badass lawyer, I don't know what kind of a government functionary or whatever, he's a CIA, who knows what he is. Again, it just looks like a role. I'm like, all right, I'm so there for whatever Tyler Perry's doing in this movie. I mean, clearly this film, like, not only does it have like government assassins but it's got a giant forest fire that apparently they start to take care of some witnesses. I love this trailer just because, you know, when you start watching it, you're like, oh, is this about a woman that goes to the woods to like get some serenity after like she's lost a loved one in a fire or something? And then of course it goes from there. And I loved it. I'm like, yeah, man, bring it on. That, and by the way, that and the Without Remorse, the final Without Remorse trailer, the last 2 days of action trailers that dropped, I'm like, bruh, we're in for some good stuff, some good. Although it's all, you know, look what the streamers are delivering. Yeah. This looks like I want to see this movie. And I saw Hell or High Water in the theater. You know, I saw Wind River. I hate to admit this, on a plane, but Tyler Sheridan, man, that dude. And he created Yellowstone as well, the TV series
that everybody loves, and I've still never seen. But everybody raves about this show.
I mean, this looks. I'm there for it. I can't wait. I was interested in it. Now I really top of the list of must-sees.
And that's the job of a trailer. The question is for you guys. Did you have a chance to see this trailer? If so, what did you think? Did it increase your excitement for it? Do you still not really care for it? Does not look like your cup of tea? What do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Ryan Harris, who writes, "Hey, John, I know you guys talked about the huge $450 million that Netflix is paying for 2 Knives Out sequels, but I just saw that the number is actually bigger than that, and Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig are each getting a cool $100 million each." Let me repeat that. Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig are each getting a cool $100 million each. How can they afford to pay those kinds of numbers and still produce 2 movies? Thanks. Okay, thanks for sending that in, Ryan. And look, I think this is bigger news than even we made it out to be. Netflix stepping up and paying by the way, the number is actually $469 million. $469 million Netflix has put up to acquire the rights to Knives Out 2 and Knives Out 3 once Rian Johnson makes them. They get the rights to put it on their streaming service. These are astronomical, unbelievable numbers. Absolutely incredible. And of course, like Ryan just pointed out, a part of that is that Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig each stand to get cut a check in excess of $100 million each. This comes to us from the folks over at Joe Blow, who writes, "It was initially said that the deal was in the $400 to $450 million range, but the final number came out to be $469 million, which is a little crazy. The Hollywood Reporter sources have claimed that Rian Johnson, Daniel Craig, and producer Ram Bergman are looking to walk away with upwards of $100 million each. It gives Rian Johnson complete creative control, which means that he won't have to take any notes from Netflix. Like, basically, all Netflix is doing is they are put up the money to have the rights to take his movies and put them on Netflix. They get no input on the movies that he makes or how he does it. He has complete creative control. This is a dream situation for a dude like him. Anyway, we continue on. He has complete creative control, which means he won't have to take any notes from Netflix. But it does say, the one caveat says that Daniel Craig must star in both of the sequels, which he probably would have anyway, since the whole franchise is built around this character, and that they must have at least the same budget of the original film, which cost somewhere in the realm of $40 million. This of us comes to us from Joe Blow. Rob, look, this is not a financially wise decision by Netflix. This is like a sports team way overpaying for a very good, but paying like a $200 million contract to a good wide receiver. It's like you're overpaying a lot, but this is the state of things in the streaming wars right now. Right now, if you're one of these streamers and you've got, like Rob, as there were just reports coming out too, we'll probably talk about this tomorrow, that Netflix is starting to lose market share. They've got Disney Plus nipping at their heels. HBO Max is cranking out great content. Amazon has got a whole bunch of great stuff coming. On and on and on. They have got to get serious, and they are, by writing out a check for $469 million. Netflix is saying, oh, hell yes, we're serious. We're very serious. And we're willing to take a loss on this to make a statement. And getting two Academy-nominated film like Knives Out, to get those two films to be exclusive to Netflix, that is definitely making a statement. As far as Rian Johnson goes, and his production partner, Ram Bergman, and Daniel Craig, each getting in the neighborhood of $100 million each. Rian Johnson. You know what, Rob? Maybe a couple years ago, Rian Johnson was probably thinking at some point, man, I'm doing a Star Wars movie. That's going to be my big financial windfall.
Yeah.
Who would ever thought writing a little Agatha Christie homage murder mystery whodunit low budget film was actually going to be the film that sets him, his children, and his grandchildren up financially for the rest of their lives? Who would have guessed that would have been it? Now, I do want to point something out. I think it was Ryan in the comment section there, wrote in and asked, how on earth are they going to be able to afford being able to do these movies when they're paying these guys that much money? It's a fair question. Let's jump over for a second into the Campea classroom for a moment, shall we? All right, let's go in here. So Netflix Netflix puts up $469 million, right? Okay. So between Ryan, Bam, yeah, that's his name, Bam. Okay, sure, Bam. And Daniel Craig, that accounts for $300 million of that. That leaves them $169 million to make two movies, right? $169 million to make two movies. The only thing that it says in their contract is that each movie must have at least a $40 million budget. That's it. That's $80 million. That leaves $89 million left over. So two movies could cost 80 mil, which leaves that leaves 89 million left over. And Rob, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind about that. That $40 million that they made the first film for, that included Daniel Craig's salary. Guess what? Yeah. They don't have to worry about that now because that's taken care of in that other $100 million. They just need to be able to make these movies so they can actually they can give each of these sequels a 50% budget increase, Rob. They can make each of the sequels for $60 million each, which comes out to $120, which still leaves them with $49 million left over to distribute amongst their other partners. So, yes, I understand why Ryan writes in and says, wait a minute, if they're giving Ryan Johnson $100 million, and they're giving Daniel Craig $100 million, and they're giving Rian Johnson's production partner $100 million. How are they supposed to still make movie? They've got plenty of money left over. Plenty of money left over to make these things. So I still think it's a little bit of a questionable move by Netflix, although I get where they're coming from. But for Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig and all the folks who are going to be involved with Knives Out 2 and 3, Rob, this is a fanatical win. An absolute fanatical win of the types of dollar figures we're talking. Rian Johnson is laughing all the way to the bank right now, as is Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig is like, Bond who? Like, Bond what? $100 million. Anyway, Rob, you hear these numbers. You see this story. What's your take on this?
This really, I think, sets a bad precedent. You remember when in like the 80s and 90s you had stars like a Jim Carrey would get paid $20 million to be in The Cable Guy?
Yeah.
And then that means normally a person would get paid, your talent gets paid a portion of the budget of the actual film. Now, what this is doing is it's saying once again that the talent itself is worth a lot more. Your relationship with your talent is worth a lot more than the movies they're making. And at the end of the day, I think that is a dangerous precedent to set for any streamer or any studio or anything, because what they're selling is not the talent. They're selling the actual content.
Right.
And what does that say to any other writer or director or actor or producer that's expecting to get into bed with Netflix? I mean, what is, other than outside James Bond, what is Daniel Craig's box office draw? I mean, what was the box office of Knives Out worldwide?
Not a lot.
And I'll bet you that they're paying the producer, the director, and the actor in excess of what Knives Out grossed worldwide theatrically. I don't understand what.
By the way, $311 million is how much Knives Out made worldwide.
I mean, you're talking about a worldwide theatrical gross that almost is the salaries of the three, not even the crew. You're talking about three people. I'm like, that to me is, hell, if they each made 10 million or 20 million, Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins were each given a $10 million bonus for Wonder Woman 2, Wonder Woman 84. I honestly do not understand. Maybe one of the industry oracles that send me emails and explain when I'm wrong on my show will please explain to me under what economic model this could possibly work and what kind of precedent. I mean, talk about an arms escalation in the streaming wars. I mean, if this is the precedent people are going to expect to get, I just don't see how this business is sustainable. How are you supposed to? I mean, John, in terms of content, how is Netflix gonna fill their roster, making big movies every week, paying this kind of money? How do they make this work? Are they going to get $300 million worth of subscribers out of these movies?
No,
I don't get it at all. I just don't get it.
And I think you raise a good point. Look, like I said off the top, I don't believe this is an economic model that does work for Netflix. This is a lost proposition. And I think they understand that. It's a lost proposition. I compare it a little bit to, we were talking about this earlier, I compare it to the situation with the PS5. Sony, not everybody knows this, Sony actually sells the PlayStation 5 at a loss. It actually costs them more to make and ship the PS5 than what they charge people for it. But they do that because they believe they get more benefits later on. Like, people own the PS5, they're going to buy content on the PS5, they get into the PS5 ecosphere, they'll make money from them later on. It seems to me like Netflix's philosophy here is, we get this thing, we're never going to make our money back on it. Like, we're not going to make our money back on it, but it sets us as a prestige title. We're getting this Academy level film in here, and Knives Out is bloody fantastic. It's such a fantastic movie. We're going to do this. We're going to get all this prestige. But I think the best point you raised there, Rob, is that what does this do moving forward? What happens now when you approach a Martin Scorsese and say, hey, Martin, we would love to be the home. We would love Netflix to be the home of your next movie after Flowers or Killers of the Flower Moon. And, hey, we're willing to give you, like you personally, like a $30 million check. Marty Scorsese is going to go, that's funny. I just saw you gave Rian Johnson $100 million. You don't think my name's as good as Rian Johnson? I'm Martin fucking Scorsese. And they could just have bit themselves in the ass moving forward. But this causes problems too, Rob. It's not just problems for Netflix. This is going to cause an issue. I guarantee you today, Amazon, Disney, HBO Max, they're all looking at Netflix saying, what the hell are you doing? Because now other talent is going to start going to Disney Plus and saying, well, Netflix just gave Daniel Craig $100 million deal, and they're really going to screw up the marketplace, and that could be the long-term thing.
I mean, not since like Jack Nicholson made like $65 million on Tim Burton's Batman, with all the ancillary markets and how well that film did theatrically at the time. I mean, this has got to be one of the most unprecedented talent deals in Hollywood history in terms of an upfront payment. And what I just don't understand is it seems to me that the films themselves, the content that Netflix wants to have subscribers come back to, that's getting the short shrift. When you're paying more money to the talent than you are to the actual product that they're making, I think that's problematic, especially because at the end of the day, you know what? Daniel Craig's certainly a draw, and Rian Johnson is a world-class filmmaker. I mean, I've liked him as a filmmaker since Brick, and of course, I loved his episodes of Breaking Bad. But this kind of thing is so ass backwards, it seems, because you're not putting your money into the actual content that's being made. And at the end of the day, it's not like Netflix is slapping Daniel Craig's face on a poster. This is going to be part of the whole Netflix mill that grinds things out, and people are not going to be like, are people going to be like, oh my God, can you believe it? Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig's new and Bam's new team up is going to be their marquee title for March. I need to sign up for that. I mean, it's not like they're going to market it any differently than anything else on their platform. I think the economics sets a dangerous precedent. And I think what it does is it takes the emphasis once again, especially for Hollywood, because all the managers and the agents and the lawyers and everybody looks at this, and it's going to make it harder to get every movie made because talent's going to expect this kind of a deal from a streaming service. I think it's really foolhardy, to be honest. Now, I don't understand it.
I've heard people making the statements, and I guess, like, John, you don't understand. What Netflix is paying for really at the end of the day is they're paying for the rights to these movies. It's not so much that they're paying Rian Johnson this money. It's not so much that they're paying Daniel Craig this money. It's that you got to look at the overall number, they would say to me. You got to look at the overall number and understand that that's what they're paying for the property, for the IP. And yeah, it's getting distributed to Rian Johnson. And yeah, a bunch of it is getting distributed to Daniel Craig. And yeah, but you got to look at overall. And okay, I get that. You can look at it that way, although I think there are some massive logic holes in that as well. But even if you want to look at it like that, paying, as great as Knives Out is, it is not an IP in its entirety that is worth $469 million. I love it. I thought it was one of the best movies to come out in the last number of years, but it is not worth that much money. Forget how much you're paying Daniel Craig. Forget how much you're paying Rian Johnson. It's just a property that's not worth that much. Apple Plus put up $200 million in its entirety for Killers of the Flower Moon. $200 million. That means that's Marty Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe the hottest tandem in all of Hollywood, right? For this thing in there. That means you are valuating Knives Out movies to be worth more, like $69 million more per film than you are that. And it just seems like, so whichever way you want to break it down, Rob, the way you articulate the problems with playing a Daniel Craig or Rian Johnson that much money, although good on him. Because as you always say, Rob, it's not what you deserve, it's what you negotiate.
Yeah,
they got
I know.
it. So good on Daniel Craig and Rian Johnson. But to pay them that much money, but it's also when you take a step back and say, is the entire IP even worth this? And the answer is no. And the next time Marty Scorsese or one of these other filmmakers are fielding offers from a Disney Plus or an Apple TV or an Amazon or an HBO Max, and they come to him with the $200 million, he's going to turn his nose up at it. It's like, market says my movie's now worth at least $350 million. And this could have repercussions. Rob, how do you see this affecting the other studios? Like, even looking away from Netflix, what is the ripple effect of this on the other major streamers?
Well, I think it's terrible that Amazon paid $250 million for the rights to Lord of the Rings. I thought that was an insane payment, but I understand where they're coming from. Lord of the Rings can sustain them for years, decades if they wanted to, as long as they make good content. But at the end of the day, what I find distressing about this is that it shifts the emphasis away from the finished content. Once again, Hollywood used to talk about so-and-so is getting a huge payday. And for a long time, with content, John, let's say you're making a movie that's 2 hours long. You do a show every day that's 2 hours long. And how much does it cost to make? Not $65 million, not $100 million, but it's the same 2 hours. The same 2 hours people spend watching a Knives Out sequel is also spent watching your show. Now, they're different forms of entertainment, but it's the same 2 hours. And the question is, how much are those 2 hours worth when you're making narrative content? How much is that going to bring in terms of value on your channel? And for you, your 2 hour show brings an incredible amount of value to the people that watch this show, an incredible amount of value. Is a movie worth hundreds of millions of dollars more than the 2 hours people take to watch your show? And I ask, if you're going to make movies cost that much more money, is it really worth it? Is your 2 hours of time worth Daniel Craig and Bam and Rian Johnson getting paid $300 million? I mean, I would think that why not pay them each $20 million and make 3 Knives Out movies? Make a trilogy, greenlight all 3. Then you have enough money to make the movies. I would think Rian Johnson too. Are they going to have enough money to make the films that they're making? Is this based, like you talked about, being based on an IP property, like they're getting the IP? It's not like people are running out and buying hot toys of the Knives Out cast. They're just not. How is this IP worth this much money? Are we going to be playing Knives Out immersive video games? Is there going to be an open sandbox Knives Out MMORPG soon? I don't think so. Where's this money? Where's the value? I don't get it.
Yeah, again, they think it's a prestige play. They're looking at it as a reputation.
But even if they paid him $20 million, that would have been a huge payday for them.
Yeah, except that I guess Ryan and Daniel weren't going to take that. They were like, okay, you want us to go Netflix and not go theatrical? You got to pay us this amount of money. And Netflix said, okay.
But you know what? Good on them.
Good on them. They win. Daniel Craig and Rian Johnson win. I again, good for them. I just think it was a kind of a questionable decision on Netflix's part. Question is, guys, what do you make of this? We're talking Daniel Craig and Rian Johnson each are going to get $100 million for Knives Out. Great movie, but not worth that much. How do you guys see this? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Brian Hahn, who writes, "Greetings and salutations, John and Rob. They launched the Jupiter's Legacy trailer, and I'm feeling a couple of different things about it. I guess that first, I should say I thought the trailer was great, like really awesome. But I'm also feeling like a show about looking at superheroes differently thing is being done a lot these days. The Boys, Umbrella Academy, Invincible, and others. Maybe it's not superhero fatigue, but gritty, grounded superhero fatigue. Does that make sense? All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yes, a lot of people have been talking about, Jupiter. Hey, I keep wanting to say Jupiter Ascending. Jupiter's Legacy. A lot of people are talking about Jupiter's Legacy and have been talking about Jupiter's Legacy for a while. Today, the trailer dropped. Let's just talk about the trailer first before we get into the wider question there. Talking about the trailer first. The trailer's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? I am not ashamed to say I'm a Josh Duhamel fan. I've always liked him.
Yep.
He's not always been in the best movies, granted, but I have always liked him. I find him very entertaining when I watch him on screen. So it's really good to see him in this. The transformation of him from the younger self to the older self looks great. I really, really like what I'm seeing. And this looks pretty damn fantastic to me. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline who write, this new series, Jupiter's Legacy, the series tells the story of the world's first generation of superheroes who received their powers in the 1930s and have kept the world safe ever since. In the present day, figures like the Utopian, I believe that's Josh Duhamel's character, also known as Sheldon Sampson, Josh Duhamel, look to their children to continue their legacy. But while the young superheroes are hungry to prove their worth, tensions rise as they struggle to live up to their parents' legendary public reputations and their exacting personal standards. That comes to us from Deadline. And Rob, I'll be honest with you. See, I have never read Jupiter's Legacy. I personally never read it. And so in looking at this, I've not known really what to expect from the trailer. Like, I've read synopsises and I've read overall, guys, I got a sense from what kind of the tone was going to be to a degree. So when I sat down and watched the trailer this morning, it was pretty much with as clean of a slate as you could have, I suppose. And man, it just hit me all the right ways. You know what it felt like? It felt like an ABC drama. It felt like a Falcon's Crest almost with superheroes in some ways. And I just thought it worked very well. And it didn't feel a little more forced. It didn't feel a little as campy as, say, like an Invincible does. All due respect to Invincible, it's great. It's just that it's more animated, so it goes a little more campy in it. This felt a little bit more real and grounded, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Now, Rob, I know you have read Jupiter's Legacy. So what were your feelings going in and watching this trailer today? And, what's your experience with that?
Well, I was telling you, I kind of got a little choked up when I watched this trailer, only because I had not read this comic before. But when I did an episode of Comic Book Shopping with John Schnepp, Jupiter's Legacy, and then there's a sequel series, was a comic that John saw, and he goes, oh, you have to buy this. And I wouldn't have the comic. I wouldn't have read it, I don't think. Maybe I would have got around to it. But it was a John Schnepp discovery for me. He literally put the book in my hand. And I loved the comic. And watching this, I thought, wow, it looks like they really nailed what I loved about the series. And on one hand, yeah, it's another superhero show, but it has a really interesting take, sort of a superhero, call it a family. And what if you're the child of a world famous superhero that overshadows everything you've ever done in your life, and you have to step up and fill those shoes? What is that like for you? And it has a really interesting take on the world. And I saw this. I really love the design of the characters. I love the way it looks. And Mark Miller, this is the first of his deal with, oh God, I look so fat in that picture. I was, by the way. It looks terrific. It really looks great. And I was really excited for it. And I got to say, I got a little misty-eyed, John, watching this trailer, because Schnepp would have loved to see that this was finally realized. Schnepp would have really loved this. And I think it looks great. And Josh Duhamel looks great. I mean, normally, he's like, okay, he's wearing an old man's beard and gray hair, but he looks great. And the characters, I love the design of it all. I think it looks great.
The one thing, as I started going through and looking at the various comic art from it, was, wow, they just decided, like, no adaptation as far as the costumes. They just decided to go straight up. Here's the costume as it was in the. Do you think that was the right decision?
I do. And, Frank Quitely, who's an amazing artist. I mean, he's an amazing artist. And I love these designs, and I think they realize them kind of the same way. They're doing a really good job with, like, Homelander's costume in The Boys. Iconic. It's not something we knew about before The Boys. It's an original costume, and yet it looks like something we would have known about for decades. And I feel like the Jupiter's Legacy costumes are the same way. These uniforms look like characters that we've known forever, even though they're not. They're from a rather obscure comic book, even in Mark Millar's canon. So I think it looks terrific. I'm down, man. I want to well, I have to have the body to do it, but I want to cosplay one of those dudes with my gray hair. Come on, I could do it.
Just got to grow it out a little bit more. It's getting there.
I know.
It's getting there. Question is, guys, did you have a chance to see Jupiter's Legacy's trailer? I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was really good. How did you guys feel about it? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our 4th main topic today gets submitted to us by Jose Martinez, who writes, I was hoping you could clear something up about the whole Warner Brothers and Dune thing. At first, I heard that Warner Brothers was putting everything on HBO Max. Then I heard the company that paid for Dune say no. Then I kept seeing HBO Max commercials saying Dune was going to be on their channel. Now I'm reading that Dune might go full movie theaters only. What is going on with it right now? Thank you. All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And Rob, my most anticipated movie of the year is Denis Villeneuve's Dune. That is my most anticipated movie of the year. I cannot wait to see this thing. Now, Jose's right. There has been a lot of like back and forth drama concerning this title because, originally it was supposed to be theatrical. Then HBO makes the announcement, Warner Brothers makes the announcement that they're going to make everything day and date with HBO Max, which completely pissed off everybody. But everybody included the director of the film, Denis Villeneuve, who came out and wrote a scathing article in, I believe it was Variety. He wrote the op-ed for Variety, a scathing, vicious, attacking article against Warner Brothers and HBO Max for that. And then, of course, Legendary Pictures, the company that actually paid for the production of Dune, they got completely pissed off. They threatened legal action and all that kind of stuff because they wanted this movie in theaters where they could actually make their money back and hopefully make a ton more on top of that. Denis Villeneuve, the director, said, by putting this thing on HBO Max, you have killed the franchise, he said. You've killed any potential for this thing becoming a franchise, which is what we invested our time and energy and money into it for, was to be that. Well, then a little thing called Godzilla vs. Kong came out and has made $300 million, more than $300 million worldwide already, including close to $50 million for an opening weekend salvo. And that apparently has gotten other people thinking and talking. This comes to us from the folks over at Tech Radar who write, Warner Brothers is reportedly now reconsidering its simultaneous theatrical and streaming release plan for their star-studded sci-fi epic Dune. According to a new report from Deadline, the report suggests that Warner Brothers remains undecided right now about Dune's release approach, citing the monstrous theatrical success of Legendary Entertainment's Godzilla vs. Kong as a contributing factor. And that, of course, comes to us from Tech Radar. And of course they're reconsidering. Rob, you and I were talking about this on the show just yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago. We were talking about, with Godzilla vs. Kong results, I think it was probably on Monday. With Godzilla vs. Kong's results, a couple things are happening. I think Disney is having some discussions about whether or not they rethink this whole premium access for Black Widow thing. I think they are. I don't know whether they'll actually go back on it, but I think they're talking about it. And I think it's also making Warner Brothers look differently at Dune, and maybe not even just Dune. There may be a couple of other films that they're looking at that's going, maybe we should just put this thing theatrically because, by having it on HBO Max, they probably lost out on $20 to $30 million. Minimum. They probably lost out. That's $20 or $30 million is now gone. They're not going to see that again. So, and they still could have gotten the benefit of it being on HBO Max later and not missed out on that box office money. So look, Warner Brothers is facing an interesting predicament. Their director does not want this thing going to HBO Max. At least not initially. Later on is fine. The people who paid for the movie do not want this thing going to HBO Max. The industry doesn't want to go straight to HBO Max. But now Warner Brothers is sitting saying, wow, the recovery may be a little bit further ahead than we thought it would be. We look at the money we got for Godzilla vs. Kong. What kind of money could we make if we just put this thing out theatrically for a now shortened 45-day window and then we can put it on HBO Max? Rob, it is important to note that as of today, the HBO Max commercials are still boasting that day and date release of Dune is going to be on HBO Max in October. Their commercials are still saying that, so that's important to note. But Rob, at the end of the day, what do you think is going to happen? We get around to October, which is, I believe, is when Dune is supposed to come out. We get to October, Dune's coming out. Is it coming out just theatrically exclusive, or is it coming out day and date on HBO Max and theatrical? What do you think?
Well, I think that Dune, you look at Dune, there's some weird glitch just happened to me. You look at day and date releases with movies, we've talked about on the show a lot. Movies are given so much more value if they do well theatrically. It doesn't matter. That's how the business works. And a prestige movie like Dune, which is considered to be the beginning of both a television spin-off franchise and a theatrical franchise, it needs to have its best leg up. It needs to put its best foot forward. I think Dune is an epic spectacle. It's a great science fiction literary adaptation. It has prestige filmmakers and one of the greatest casts put together in a long time. I would love to see it go out theatrically only, just to add to the prestige of it. It's an event. Look, I'm going to be vaccinated by then. There's no way I'm watching Dune on TV for the first time. No way. I had to watch Godzilla versus Kong because I wasn't vaccinated, but there's no way. Come hell or high water, I'll order a containment suit, a biohazard suit, and go to the theater if I have to. But I think it's important that this movie gets released theatrically. And look, if the numbers keep trending downward for the most part, there's only like 5 states now in the United States where numbers are creeping back up. And those are mostly on the East Coast. So people are beating this thing. And by the time Dune comes out, hopefully we'll even be that much further along. So I can see them going back to just a theatrical model for this. Now, they might put it in theater, or they might put it on HBO Max 45 days later. But can you imagine, like, looking at King Kong numbers worldwide, what this movie could do in 45 days? What if it made $500 million or even more, depending on how theaters are open at that time? I think it's only a good thing for movies. And I'm hoping, I think what Godzilla versus Kong taught us, John, is that movie theaters could go back to pre-pandemic levels, that people want to go back to the movies. They're not scared, especially if they've been vaccinated. And I think that's really important.
Well, the last week has proved that. The people, like again, we made this point the other day, but it's important to point out again. Let's not pretend like Godzilla versus Kong is a Justice League or an Avengers Endgame. These are movies that have done okay. Godzilla, Kong Skull Island, King of the Monsters, they have done okay to disappointing, frankly. And for it to come out of the gate and make $300 million while there is still limited capacity, while there are still people a little bit nervous about going back to the theaters, and while it was available on HBO Max, it speaks volumes about how much people are wanting to get back to the movie theaters. Now, let's fast forward. Remember, we're not talking about Dune coming out tomorrow. We're talking about coming out 5 months from now. 5 months. Their hope was to have, like, what was it, a million vaccinations a day? They're doing 3 million vaccinations a day now. I'm going to get my second Pfizer shot in like 2 weeks. I'm going to be fully vaccinated in 2 weeks. A lot of people already are. By October, we're going to be much further along than that. And I'm going to, again, I have no insider information on what's going on with this at Warner Brothers right now. So this is just me speculating as a fan. But I would have to say, if I had to put $1 on it, I'm betting this thing will get a theatrical exclusive release. So that's where I'm coming down on. I think Warner Brothers just know they're going to make a lot more money that way and then put it on HBO Max 45 days later. I don't know, Rob, if you had to put $1 down on it, October comes, this thing's coming out, where is it going to be?
I think it's going to be theatrical only.
I agree.
I'm putting my buck down.
Yeah, and it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do, and I hope it goes that way. Whether it does or not, we'll actually find out as we get a little bit closer. Question is for you guys. What do you think about the sounds of this? Like, Do you think Warner Brothers really was caught off guard, as all the trades are saying, with the success of Godzilla versus Kong? As we look 5 months into the future with even more people vaccinated, all that kind of stuff, does it create an environment that they're going to go, you know what, this thing needs to be theatrical only? Or do you think they'll stay where they are by putting it on an HBO Max and in theaters at the same time? How do you guys see this? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all that down now, we're going to go over and start taking your live comments and questions. How do you get in a live comment or question on the show here? It's really simple. Simply look in the description of this video and you'll see a tip link. You can just click on that, or you could enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the show at the same time. And all of us involved here at the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. Okay, let's get on over there and start taking your questions. We're going to get things started off here with who we got. We've got Brooks Kirk, who writes, "Hey, John, how's the leg? My leg is not 100% yet, but it's getting better every day. Thank you so much for asking. Godzilla vs. Kong was awesome. I saw it in IMAX in all of its glory." No, that's awesome. That is the way to watch it, man. Not gonna lie, went in Team Godzilla, but I came out Team Kong. Would love another Kong movie, though. Possible? Thoughts? Thanks. Well, Rob, you and I talked about that. Thanks for sending that in, Brooks. You and I talked about that the other day. Like I said before, after King of the Monsters, if they hadn't already been shooting Godzilla versus Kong, I think they would have canceled it. But now, I can't imagine that they're not going to do another one. And I loved your proposal for it yesterday of Godzilla and Kong versus alien monsters.
Aliens.
I love it. Or,
Pacific Rim team up.
I've always said the idea of crossing over Godzilla, Kong, and stuff like that with Pacific Rim was rather silly. I don't think that anymore. You've won me over. You totally won me over on that. I'm totally, but I do think we're going to get another one. Rob, do you think within the next 2 years we'll get an announcement of either another A, Kong movie, B, Godzilla movie, or C, a combination of the? Do you think we'll get an announcement for one of those in the next couple of years?
Well, I think possibly, because it's going to depend on the deal with Toho. I think they had a 4-picture deal with Toho to use Godzilla, but if they can extend it because of the success of Godzilla versus Kong, then maybe, but they can always make another King Kong movie without Godzilla. So maybe they could do that. Although, you know what, if you're going to have aliens and you're going to have more kaiju that are alien, you got to have Godzilla. Cause I don't see Kong fighting aliens by himself, John. I think you need the Japanese contingent, to bring it over to make it believable. I just think just using Kong to fight aliens, strange credulity, but you bring in Godzilla and the other kaiju, then I'm like, okay, I'll buy that.
All right. Next up, Spicy Mayo writes, "Hello from San Diego." I love San Diego. "Godzilla versus Kong last night, and it was amazing. It was such a great experience in theaters. But I think the plot in Human Stories was the weakest in the Monsterverse." I agree. I have never seen such useless characters. To me, overall, yeah, the whole human aspect of it was the weakest part. I did feel, though, like, as opposed to the human characters, Millie Bobby Brown and whatnot, that were kind of tracking Godzilla, they were actually quite pointless. Like, you could have taken their characters out of the movie and nothing really would have changed. At least, like, the little girl, I'm forgetting the name of the actress. I love her from Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and I keep forgetting her name. She was in Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman. If you guys remember her name off the top of your heads in the live chat, please fire it in. Anyway, Rebecca Hall. Ansh sends in Rebecca Hall.
Oh, you said little girl. The little girl.
No, the little girl and the woman. Yeah. Evelyn, Casinema, right in Rebecca Hall. Thanks, guys.
I was thinking little girl and Vicky Cristina Barcelona. I'm thinking Scarlett Johansson and Rebecca Hall.
At least there was purpose for those characters. They had to actually be the ones to communicate with Kong. They're the ones who had to get Kong from point A to point B to point C in the movie. But yeah, overall, no doubt about it. The weaker part of the movie was the humans in general. There's no doubt about that. All right, Chris West writes, "Hey, John and crew. I've been watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. That is never a bad use of your time, my friend. Never a bad use of your time. I I still can't believe how well these films hold up, and I can't believe the first film is turning 20 years old this year. Do you think New Line will do some kind of re-release? I'll tell you what, Rob, why the hell not? I mean, I know during the pandemic, some theaters that were able to stay open and they were putting out some older films, they would put out one of the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah.
Why not, to help kind of commemorate and celebrate the reemergence out of the pandemic? I mean, look, you re-release the Lord of the Rings films, they're not going to make $100 million. It's going to be modest at best, but it would be an event, and I would totally go. You put out all three of those things, I will go. I will be there. It's been a long time since I've seen those movies on the big screen, and I would be there. Rob, would you, and what do you think about the fact that Fellowship of the Ring is turning 20 years old this week?
Bruh. I can't believe it. I mean, we were working on the special features about 20 years ago. I mean, that's just crazy to me. I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I think they should do a big theatrical re-release when Amazon releases if they ever release their series. You can never go wrong. I mean, like you said, it's not going to make $100 million, but I love any time going back. Like I went and saw a couple of years back, I went and saw a re-release of them, and you know, they've really lost none of their power. You forget just the grand entertainment that those three movies deliver. So
yeah, absolutely.
I just can't believe
stuff.
It's been 20 years.
I
dude.
know. Crazy. All right. Next up, an anonymous viewer writes, "Hey, John, couple of things. First off, did anybody mention that Uncle Sam poster boy for the U.S. military's real name was Samuel Wilson? I didn't even realize that. Second, do you think it's possible that the death of the king will be announced in episode 5? No, I do not. A lot of people, there have been people wondering, Rob, some people were wondering if like there could be a cameo of Chadwick Boseman in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I think that is beyond unlikely. Like if you let's look at WandaVision for a second. When they're going to bring in outside characters, they bring in the B and C level stuff to kind of flesh out the world more. They brought in Darcy, they brought in Agent Wu, they do that sort of stuff. With already in Falcon and Winter Soldier, they don't even bring in the main Dora Milaje. They bring in her second in command, Ayo. And by the way, it's spelled A-Y-O. I've always known that, but I don't know how it's pronounced, so I just say Ayo.
That's what I say too.
Ayo! Anyway, so they're bringing her in. I don't think so. But the big thing is this, Rob, and we were talking about this on the spoiler discussion the other day. It's incredibly unlikely that they got that in. First of all, by the time they were shooting this, he was still alive, but I do not think he was in condition to be going out and shooting things when they were shooting Falcon and Winter Soldier. When you go back and look at the dates and how they were lining up, I do not think he would have been in physical condition. Now, I bring up this image now, not to sensationalize anything. It's just to illustrate a point, okay? It's just to illustrate a point. This was an image taken from a video that Chadwick Boseman put out on social media. Now, you guys might remember this. This was the first time that the public started to suspect there might be something wrong with Chadwick Boseman's health. And because he put out this video about something unrelated. And a lot of people freaked out. They were like, is Chadwick ill? Is Chadwick sick? I mean, obviously you can look at him and you could tell he's not healthy. Now, a lot of people like me kind of went, nah, he's losing weight for a role. Obviously, this is for a role in a film. He's pulling a Christian Bale. He's pulling a Christian Bale. He's dropping weight for a role. He's fine. And you know, how wrong was I? I was very wrong. But this was the condition he was in prior to Falcon and Winter Soldier shooting. So one can only imagine that his condition probably deteriorated a little bit further. So would he have then gone and appeared on screen for a cameo bit and stuff like that? Let's put it this way, Rob. If they do it and he shows up, it would be incredibly special. I mean, it would be amazingly special if he does. But I just think when you look at the whole circumstances, I think it's very, very unlikely that we're going to see Chadwick Boseman pop up in this. Even though it is theoretically possible, I think it's very unlikely. But if they do it, it'll be really, really special. Rob, what do you think the chances of that are?
Look, I'd love the idea if he was in this. I think that I could see him being the kind of guy, and the fight that he must have put up. He obviously did this fight, and it didn't. He's nominated for a Golden Globe for
Academy Award.
Academy Award for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yep.
And his performance, if you guys haven't seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Viola Davis, Chad Boseman, everybody in that cast, unbelievable. And he was that last speech he gives, man, and you could tell he was thinner then. It did not affect his ability to deliver a searing one for the ages performance. So I could see that if he was asked, because he wanted to work up until he couldn't work anymore, and maybe they could use some visual effects to flesh him out a little bit, I could see him doing it. I don't think it's necessarily likely, but if it worked out, I don't know, because they did shoot this, a long time ago. So maybe. I don't think so. I'll tell you one thing though, if it does happen, man, I'm gonna lose my cool, kind of like I lost my cool watching the Jupiter's Legacy trailer this morning. I will cry.
There'll be a lot of cut onions. A lot of cut onions suddenly everywhere. It would be smart. But again, I think it's very unlikely that's going to. Now, as far as will they at least say that the king of Wakanda is dead in it? Are they going to say that? I don't think so, because once again, remember, this whole show, the scripts were written and all that kind of stuff before, it became even known that Chadwick Boseman was ill. So I don't think they would. Kevin Feige's not a last second, let's make this change and let's make this massive change of direction for the MCU as a whole as a little side note given in episode 5 of a show. I don't think they're going to do that. So I'm guessing they're not going to announce that King T'Challa is dead. I don't think they're going to do that. All right. Let's move on here. Next up, we've got S. Beam, who writes, do you really feel that everyone actually thought Sam was Smiling Tiger? No, I don't. I didn't get that while I was watching it. I didn't get that either. Not at all. The bartender knew. I don't think the bartender knew. I mean, he suspected, but I feel that they knew it wasn't Tiger. They were just more interested that Zemo and Winter Soldier were there in the bar. Thanks. Yeah, no. I'm just saying, and by the way, S. Beam sent in like a $25 tip. Thank you for that, S. Beam. Appreciate that. No. Smiling Tiger thing completely aside. That's a side note. My whole point was, and I still stand by this, and I've not heard one rational argument against this yet. This guy saved everybody's lives at the battle. And in Spider-Man Far From Home, one of the things they kept emphasizing was everywhere was pictures of fallen Avengers. I mean, we even saw in the news broadcast, Vision died, the memorial, blah, blah. And then they came back, and he's part of the Avengers that saves the universe when Thanos is about to wipe everybody out. He saved your life. He saved everybody's life. He's sitting in a cafe in Tunisia, of all places, and people walking by recognize him instantly. Avenger! Like, they're recognizing it. Little kids in the street are recognizing him. I get everybody loves the MCU, and I love the MCU too, but that doesn't mean the mistakes they made and the dumb things they do aren't still mistakes and dumb. And pretending that you can just walk into this big full nightclub and nobody at all, when people are recognizing who Winter Soldier is and nobody recognizes him at all, I just thought that was lazy writing. I just thought it was lazy writing. But that has nothing to do with the Smiling Tiger thing. Not really. It doesn't really have anything to do with that. All right, next up. Fandoms are crazy, writes. FYI, Wyatt Russell didn't get death threats. A fan account posing as him was doing stupid shit and got hate back. Real Wyatt has no social media, by the way. That's true. Wyatt Russell does not have any social media accounts that we are aware of. If they do, they're anonymous and whatever. But anyway, then another actor thought it was real. Wyatt tweeted that he was. Now, here's the thing, fandoms are crazy. I saw on a couple of the major outlets actually writing that he was getting a lot of feedback, but clearly that feedback couldn't have been going to his social media because he doesn't maintain any public social media. So how those stories evolved, I'm not really sure. So I'm not going to pretend to know that you're wrong or that you're right in what you're saying. I just don't know. But it is an important thing to keep in mind that he doesn't actually have a social media account of his own. All right, next up, Jay Bling writes, here's where I'd like to see the Monsterverse go. Of course, I'd want to see the Avengers/Justice League team up of Titans. And the movie includes an anti-gravity fight in Hollow Earth. As far as their antagonist goes, I personally would like to see them move beyond Toho storylines and Rogues Gallery and bring in a monster with roots in real life ancient mythology. That's interesting, i.e. Greeks or Norse. Bring forth the Kraken! P.S. I know the Monsterverse and Pacific Rim are owned by Legendary, but I think the notion of IP crossover is a bit too silly in this case. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, Jay Bling, Rob, I thought that too for a long time. I really did. For a long time, I thought, nah. Bringing Pacific Rim and Godzilla versus the Godzilla and Kong universe together, that's a nice YouTube video, but it's not a movie. But I've been won over. And especially after watching Godzilla versus Kong and the tone of it, and then the way Rob explained his idea for it, I've been won over. I was like, you know what? I'd go see that. But at any rate, Rob, what do you think about the idea of, maybe another Godzilla and Kong movie, but moving beyond the Toho monsters and maybe going more to mythology monsters and other things and try to bring more things? I mean, those are all public domain, so you can do that. So I don't know. What would you think about that notion?
I think it's a great idea. I would love to see, well, not to be all rah patriotic, but it would be nice to see an American, not like the Mutos from Godzilla 2014, but a new monster that we created, whether it's a Colossus from ancient mythology or some new kind of a monster. I would love to see that a new creature, a new creature that, like, to me, King Kong is like it's quote unquote an American monster, but it's not really. He's an ape. He's a primate. He's a close cousin to us. He's not. Whereas Godzilla is a mutant born of nuclear fire, and Mothra is a giant moth, and Rodan is an ancient prehistoric creature. It would be nice to see something new on that front. I don't know what that would be, but I would like to see that happen. Like maybe there's the myth of it's Madame Pele in Hawaii, the volcano goddess. Like, it'd be kind of cool. Maybe come up with some kind of volcano creature. I don't know. Instead of dying in the fires of Mount Fuji like Rodan, maybe our American monster can be born out of the fires of a volcano on maybe in Mauna Loa on the Big Island in Hawaii. Something cool like that. I don't know. But it'd be badass. I'm in, dude. Bring it on.
You're going to hear me say it first, guys. Godzilla and Kong versus Voltron. There you go. Perfect crossover. Godzilla and Kong versus Voltron. Okay, let's move on to our next thing here. Next thing comes to us from the Wakandan Forever, who writes, a little bit. Wakanda is a man of his word, he writes. For WrestleMania, I signed up for Peacock. I'm going to quote from their welcome email. Welcome to the flock. Oh, that's terrible. That is terrible that they put that in there. Those were their words. To me, I will give them a chance, John, but this is the most skeptical I have been. Listen, all I know is, as much as I hate the Peacock name, I have enjoyed using their service. I've enjoyed using it. And again, while I am not a big WWE guy myself, my wife is, but while I'm not a big WWE guy myself, there's a lot of very hardcore wrestling fans out there, and them moving the WWE network over to Peacock was a great move for both the WWE and for Peacock. And I think it's going to pay off for them long term. And I think if you really look around at all the content they've got on Peacock, I still hate saying the damn name, but I think you'll find you're going to enjoy what they do there. All right, next up. Wakandan also writes, I just remembered the greatest music video of all time. Somebody wrote in yesterday about music videos. Ashes with Deadpool and Celine Dion. Is that not the funniest superhero cameo of all time? I can't wait to see how Disney brings him into the MCU. Baby Yoda buddy cop movie. You heard it here first. I am still flabbergasted, Rob. Nay, offended that Ashes never got nominated for an Academy Award for, and I'm being serious. I'm not being facetious here. How that song, that Celine Dion song, Ashes, from Deadpool 2, did not get nominated for Best Song at the Academy Awards, I have no idea. Because that song is great. And the music video is great. And I don't get it. I really don't. I don't know. Rob, what are your thoughts on that? Have you seen the video to that? The music video to Ashes? What do you think about it?
I mean, look, I think it was probably prejudicial just because it's from Deadpool 2. I mean, I think that how good can that song actually be? Well, it's a good song.
It's a great song, and it's a great music video. Anyway, I'm still mad about that. Okay, Ryan Lohner writes, you say you've been wondering for years when Q would come back. Well, he actually already did last year in an episode of Lower Decks. Yeah, I've heard about that, which, by the way, is a ton better than the trailer made it look. Whoever made that thing should be fired. Rob, look, you and I are different. I like Star Trek Discovery. I like Picard. They're not your favorites. But to put it mildly, I just saw the marketing for Lower Decks, and nothing ever even made me crack a smile. It's supposed to be a comedy, and you're supposed to be putting your best foot forward. Nothing in those commercials for Lower Decks made me even grin. So I have never given that show the time of day. I've never watched so much of an episode. I'm hearing from a couple of people that it's better than I think it is. Again, I haven't seen a single thing. I don't plan on watching a single thing. I know you've watched at least a couple of episodes. Is it any good? Is it entertaining at all?
I will say this. Of all the things that, and this might surprise some people, of all the things that have happened to Star Trek since 2009, I think Lower Decks is at least the most palatable. But to me, it's still a bastardization of the Star Trek concept. But it's made as a comedy. But I'm just like, once again, it's moving Star Trek away from its core concepts. And look, science fiction genre fans, imagination connoisseurs, we all love our comedy. And we all love our comedies set within whatever milieu we love. If they made a Star Wars comedy, well, that's kind of what Robot Chicken did a lot of the time. Whenever they did a great Star Wars parody on Robot Chicken, it would get shared on social media, and the Emperor's calling Vader on the phone or something like that, or Luke, whatever. People love that because we all share the joke. We're all like, in our minds, we're thinking, oh, this comedy was made only for me because I'm the only person that will get why this Star Wars parody is funny. I feel that's what Lower Decks is. It's clearly it's low-hanging fruit that's appealing to a fan base that loves its comedy. But for me, it's just a way to move further and further away from the core concepts of an aspirational, allegorical show about the future that is all about ultimately how humanity has a bright future in the cosmos as a galactic species with a great future in front of us. And Lower Decks turns us basically all into kind of buffoons in a way. And, it just celebrates the same way I like Bart Simpson, but, that's fine. It's not awful.
All right. Next up, we've got Russell Amador, who writes, hey, John, just curious, but I've been thinking about the whole Sam situation, again with the Sam situation, where he wasn't recognized. But is this not the same as the great Superman? You just proved my point. Sam was vanished and he was a psychic, so maybe his name hasn't reached all the international territories, like Tunisia, where people just recognize him on the sidewalk. Anyway, the Superman thing is a great example of this. There's a reason we have mocked and make fun of the Superman thing for decades. It's like, I'm Superman. Oh, where did Superman go? Oh, now Superman's back. Oh, where did Superman? It's a ridiculous thing they do. And everybody knows it, but they can't really change anything about that now. It's the way they set it up in the 40s. It is what it is. There's no coming back from it. So it is what it is, but it's kind of the same thing to me on this, Russell. That's just my take on it at any rate. Patrick Conway writes, went and rewatched Thor after that epic Loki trailer. I have to say the throne room scene with Loki and Odin is one of the best acted scenes in any comic book movie. Tom Hiddleston is definitely one of the best casting in the MCU. If you're talking about the original Thor movie, and if you're talking about the scene where they're having it out, because like Loki is confronting Odin now about knowing that he's actually descended of the frost giants. He's not Odin's actual son. I mean, in a very real way he was, but that he wasn't his son. And they have that big, tell me. I mean, that scene is awesome. And the funny thing is about the Tom Hiddleston casting was that it was almost accidental. Tom Hiddleston did not audition for Thor.
Right.
He was he didn't audition for Loki.
Loki.
He auditioned for Thor. And it was down between him and Chris Hemsworth. Those are the final two. And then when they gave it to Chris Hemsworth, they just went to him and said, we just like him so much. Let's offer him Loki. And history was made. And I think he's done way better as Loki than he ever would have done as Thor. I think it was a blessing in disguise for him not getting the Thor role, because he has just come to completely embody Loki. And it's the history's been made. I mean, Rob, I know for me, that is one of my favorite actor to character matches in all of comic book movies and stuff like that. What do you think about Tom Hiddleston as Loki?
Dude, come on. He's so good. I mean, I love Tom Hiddleston as an actor in general. I mean, I loved him in movie. There's a movie called High Rise that's an adaptation of J.G. Ballard's
I did
book.
not love that thing, but he's great in that.
He's great in it. Yeah, the movie's not as great as I want it to be, but he's great in it. But everything that he's been in, what was it? The spy thing he was in, the Night Manager?
Yep.
Was that he's just great. I love him as an actor.
And then that horrible Hank Williams movie.
But he was good.
But he was good in it.
No, I think he's a tremendously talented, charismatic guy. And even in bad things, he classes up the joint. So I'll watch him in anything. And he looks like he's having so much fun in the Loki series. I can't wait to see it. It just looks like bonkers. Brazil, the Time Variance Authority. I can't believe they've made a movie about that a series about that for the MCU. I mean, talk about adding a whole layer of wackiness. I'm in. Can't wait.
All right. Next up, we go over to Captain CRC, whatever. John, you really do need to go see Pride of the Yankees 1940. Oh, the one about Lou Gehrig. Oh, I've seen it. It's just been forever since I saw it. Like forever since I saw that one. I used to watch it every Christmas growing up and still do with my kids. It still holds up. Even if you're not a big baseball fan, please watch it. It's the template for every sports biopic since. Rob, somebody brought this up the other day. Was bringing up a couple of movies that made them cry, and one of them was Spirit of the Yankees. And I was going through and I stopped and I'm like, did I? Oh, and I was like, that's the one with Lou Gehrig. That's the one about Lou Gehrig. It has been forever, so I remember very, very little about it. Did you ever see Pride of the Yankees? And if so, do you remember it well?
Dude, I saw Pride of the Yankees when I was like a little kid. I think my dad and I watched that movie, but I don't remember it. Like, I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, it's I gotta say, it's been a beat. Maybe I should go back and watch it again, though.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that, Captain. Appreciate that, man. Next up, Great Grabthar's Hammer. Again, gotta love the reference. I always wanted to ask, what is your earliest memory of the DVD format? I'll always remember my family picking one up in 1999 for 499 Australian dollars. I was the first person in my high school to have a player at the time. When did you make the jump from VHS to DVD? You know what's funny? I actually I remember the answer to this question. I first got a DVD player so I could get the DVD for The Phantom Menace. As much as it was Star Wars. However I felt about it, it was Star Wars. And I heard that there was hours and hours and hours of bonus features on it. And listen, say what you want about the prequels. The bonus features on the discs for the 3 prequel films are amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. They go into showing you how they did it. And everybody forgets that the prequel Star Wars movies is one of the biggest jumps forward in visual effects like ever. They did so many things that had never really been done before in those movies, and the bonus features are incredible. So yes, I do remember. I got a DVD player so I could watch The Phantom Menace on disc. That's mine. What about you, Rob? Do you remember your first DVD experience from VHS?
Well, I was a Laserdisc guy. So I went from VHS to Laserdisc, but Laserdisc to DVD. And I have to say, me and a contingent of my friends were Laserdisc fanatics. And the first DVDs I ever picked up were at a store called Laser Blazer that was on Pico, which was close to our offices when we were making Free Enterprise. And we went over there, and they got the first DVDs from Warner Brothers in. I think my first was Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner was the first
Wow.
DVD I bought. We went in there and they're selling DVDs right next to our beloved Laserdiscs, and we're like all dubious, like we're all snooty, like sure, like they're gonna be able to replace our beloved Laserdiscs, but they were anamorphic, they were progressive scan, 24 frame. I mean, it took us about a couple of months before I'm like, all right, DVD's better than Laserdisc. And we made the jump to the format, and then I never looked back, although I still have about 100 Laserdiscs. I don't think I've played one in 20 years, but still, I have them.
All right. Next up, Murray Reich writes, I went to see a doubleheader of The Courier and Nobody. The Courier is that one with Benedict Cumberbatch. It's the Cold War spy thriller. The Courier was great. Benedict Cumberbatch's performance was thumbs up. In this one, he's always good. Based on a true story during the Cuban Missile Crisis with a mix of espionage, story kept me in suspense. So far, the best of 2021 so far. Nobody was also very entertaining. It's John Wick meets humoristic lightheartedness with lots of good, filthy violence. All I got to say is Christopher Lloyd was badass. Perfect runtime. Movie moved like clockwork. Hashtag bring on Wick versus Hutch. Gotta see a team-up movie. Rob, I don't think it is available on home video. I think you can only see Nobody in theaters right now. Or did you have a chance to see Nobody?
No, I'm dying to see that. That's top of my list, man. I can't wait.
I saw it before Kong, man.
Everyone's taught. You said it was good. Everybody I've talked to has seen it is good. I don't know. I haven't looked. I've just been so busy. I haven't looked to see if it was on VOD, but I really want to see it.
I could be wrong, but I don't think it's on VOD right now. It's a blast. It's no Shakespeare. It's rather cynical. Connie Nielsen from Gladiator, and she's Wonder Woman's mom in the Wonder Woman movies. She stars in it with him. Seeing Christopher, I had no idea Christopher Lloyd was in the movie. I had no idea. Seeing Christopher Lloyd in, I'm like, oh my God, Christopher Lloyd's in it. And yes, he is badass in it. It's just fun. It's just, I mean, that and Godzilla versus Kong were the two perfect movies to welcome me back to the movie theaters. You know what I mean? It's just,
yeah.
And when I saw Nobody with Anne lost her marbles for it. She just thought she had such a good time. If you guys have not seen Nobody, get out to the theaters and go check it out. Take Murray's advice there and go check that thing out. All right, next up, we got Murray also writes, I don't know if you have experienced this in your area, but I've gone to AMC's in New York City, and for some reason you can't use the freestyle machines to pour yourself. Only staff can. Not sure why, because New Jersey you are allowed to pour yourself, even though the machines have contactless pouring. I've had that in LA, and I think while it is inconvenient, I also think it's very, very smart. Now, because the way these machines work, right, normally, you order your soda and they give you a cup. Then you go to one of the many soda machines, you pick what you want and you pour, you got to hit the button and it pours out. Well, now you're touching the same surfaces that 300 other people today have touched. And, all that kind of stuff. So, when I went to go see Tenet, for example, what they did was, and I appreciate it, it was a little inconvenient, but I totally appreciated it. When I ordered my drink at the counter, they gave me my cup, but they said, now you go over to that line over there and a staff person will pour it for you. So you go and get in a very, very short line that went very, very fast. And they had one machine and one staff person. That way it's only the one same person, just one person touching the machine. And while it delayed me getting into the movie theater by about a minute and a half, I actually thought it was really great. Frankly, until the conditions get even better, I think every open movie theater should do that. It's a little inconvenient, but it's a great little safety measure that I really appreciated for the theaters out here. So yeah, I kind of liked it. I liked it a lot. All right, next up, we go to Sergeant Ward, who writes, some overlooked movies coming out in theaters while everybody is going crazy over giant monsters. The Courier, which we were just talking about, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, is in theaters. And the new space movie Voyagers comes out before Mortal Kombat. Are you interested in seeing these? I can't even remember which one Voyage. Is that the one with the kids who are growing up in a space voyage with Colin Farrell? Is it that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I can't wait for that. It looks like Bret Easton Ellis, Less Than Zero in space. Bring it on.
It looked to me a little bit like Lord of the Flies. It had a little bit of a Lord of the Flies in space feel to it. So listen, I'm actually a big fan of Colin Farrell. I think he's very underrated as an actor. So I'm not going to lie, I didn't love the trailer. Although I will say that whole Lord of the Flies in space aspect did kind of appeal to me. What is it that you liked about the trailer? Because you seem pretty excited for it.
Well, first of all, I love this idea that they're taking a bunch of young people that have been, I guess, bred for this mission. They haven't felt pleasure. They haven't felt their real humanity because they've been drugged or whatever. And then their carnal selves start bubbling to the top when they stop taking their drugs, and passions ignite, whether it's sexual or jealousies and rivals. And they all start, I don't know, going crazy and I on a spaceship. I'm like, I'm in. Count me in. And if Bret Easton Ellis had written that book like right after Less Than Zero or right after Rules of Attraction or Glamorama or something, I'm like, yeah, I would have read that book twice.
All right. Next up, we've got Mark B, who writes, question for Aaron. Unfortunately, Aaron's not here till Friday, so Aaron will be here in a couple of days. What is your first movie role and your favorite role you've portrayed? I think I can answer this for her, at least. Now, I know when Aaron came to LA to pursue being an actress here, the first television role she booked, Rob, I don't know if you remember this. The first role Aaron booked was she was a street prostitute in an episode of Star Trek Enterprise. That was her very first on-camera role once she moved to Hollywood. And she had like one line. So it was something like, hey, are you looking for a good time? That was her one big line. That was her first thing. Now, her first real role was, what was that show with the three girls who were witches? Charmed? Is that what's the name of it? Charmed?
Yeah.
Anyway, her first real role was, I think she was like a villain of the week in an episode of Charmed back in the day. And I think, in my conversations with her, I think her favorite role is still to this day playing Sura in Spartacus. I think that to this day, she has a lot of very, very fond memories of doing that. And I think that might still be her favorite. And we can't talk about it right now, but she has some other things coming. But we'll talk about those things another time. But hopefully, I'm not speaking out of turn. But if I can step in for Aaron for a second, I believe that's what she would say was the answer to those questions.
Can I just mention that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was also in that episode of Enterprise?
I didn't know that.
That Aaron was in? Yeah.
John Winchester himself, the comedian himself, Negan himself.
Yep.
Was in that? Oh, see, I never even knew that. I'll have to go back and check that out at some point. All right. Next up, Ryan Lohner writes, I'm definitely on board with the theory that Sharon is the power broker. It sure was awfully convenient that she just happened to have her own connections to Nagel right after Selby was so confident they'd never find him without her help. Yeah, there was that. Now, Rob, I heard another theory, and I kind of talked about this on my companion video yesterday. The other theory is this. Now, some people saying, what if she's still working for Nick Fury? Well, Nick Fury's been gone for 5 years and he's got galactic matters at hand. But another theory, and I'm not saying I'm buying into this, but I'm just saying it's an interesting theory. What if she has been working for old man Steve Rogers all along? You remember, his wife Peggy is one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. He would have had his hands in all these things. What if he connected with Sharon? What if he felt obligated to connect with Sharon? It's like, look, you and I started a romantic relationship and then I disappeared. Blah, blah, blah. But there's still work to be done, Sharon. And now, what if she's working for Steve? I'm not saying I'm buying into that theory, but there's also the theory going around that she herself may indeed be the power broker. Rob, we've seen comic book stories of heroes who have terrible things happen to them that turns them bad. She was a faithful, good guy, red, white, and blue, fighting for America, and then her country and her people turned on her. So I don't know. Out of all those things, working for Steve, maybe it's something else. Maybe she's the power broker. Do you buy into any of those?
Well, in the comics, there's a power broker character named Carl Malice who actually did enhance U.S. Agent and Battlestar.
Yes.
So, but that's just, I don't think that character is going to be in the series. but I think that's definitely a possibility. I think, we talked earlier about Chad Boseman showing up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think if that doesn't happen, I think the more obvious is old man Steve Rogers.
Right.
I think he's going to be in it because this whole show is about talking about the legacy of Captain America and we got to have commentary. Old man Steve Rogers is still alive. So I think we're going to see old man Steve Rogers, and I think Sharon Carter might be in fact working for him.
All right. I mean, we'll find out. We've only got, we've only had 3 episodes and we've just got 3 left.
Yep.
I hate this 6 episode stuff. Anyway. All right, let's move on here. Next up, we've got Mark B, who writes, "Hey, John, does Anne's mom still think you wear suits on your show?" No, she knows I do not wear suits on my show. But now that her son actually works for me, Anne's brother, Ray, my brother-in-law, he, of course, does a lot of the graphics and images and some editing around here, too. He does a lot. Now that her son actually works for me full time, she still doesn't really understand what I do. Because for years, my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, who I love, she doesn't understand what I do. She actually just thought I wasn't employed. She just thought I didn't have a job. I literally, Rob, I'm not kidding. I'm not being facetious. On our wedding day, Anne's mom, the ceremony was over. She gave me a hug and she looked at me and said, because, I'm Canadian and now I just married an American. She gave me a hug and said, "You can get job now?" And I'm like, so I still don't think she totally gets what I do, but she understands I do have a full-time job now that her son actually works for me. So there's that. All right, next up. Nick Venom writes, "Hey, John, I love going to the movies, but me and my son watched Wonder Woman 84, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Godzilla vs. Kong, Coming to America 2, The Little Things, Judas and the Black Messiah, One Night in Miami, all from my couch. I'm in no hurry to go back to theaters." And listen, God bless. If that's how you like to watch them, that's how you like to watch them. You should not be swayed by anything I say. For me and myself, I can sit on my ass in my house watching things every single day. To me, movies are events. And I think more people need to get off their asses and get out of the house. Make it a social event. Make it an experiential event. Watching Godzilla versus Kong on your TV is fine if those are the only options available to you. But you will not have the same experience as those watching it in a movie theater are going to have. You can watch Nobody at home. Actually, you can't watch it at home, but at some point you can. You're simply not going to have as good of an experience as people who go. You're not going to have the same experience. But to each their own. Some people like tomatoes. I do not. Neither of us are right. Neither of us are wrong. But to me, you're selling yourself short. And you're selling the movie watching experience short. And what joy is it in just doing the same damn thing you did yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before and the day before? I don't know. Like, to me, Rob, I say this every day. I wake up knowing I'm going to the movies that night, which is actually a real thing again now. And I know I'm going to get together. Either it's a great night out with just me and my wife, or I'm getting together. We're going to have a couple of our friends come with us. We're going to have some drinks. We're going to have something to eat. We're going to go watch this movie together in a theater with other people on the giant screen. It's just a better day. Yeah. It's just a better day. But again, I'm only speaking for myself and my experience. Your mileage may vary. How would you address that?
Well, look, I mean, like, we talked about it so often. To me, going to a movie theater and being enveloped by sound and picture it makes it all better. You can concentrate on it more. I think it permeates your imagination. It digs deeper into your brain. You're paying more attention because there's nothing around you. You're in a dark environment and looking at a screen, and whenever you're at home, you're always aware that there's something else. There's the kitchen. You can pick up your phone whenever you want to. And I think the level of attention, when you see a movie, John, there is nothing else. There is only that. And I even think that you enjoy a movie more if you see it in a theater. And while, look, I watch lots of things at home, but I would prefer to watch anything, no matter what it is, for the first time, even TV shows. I would rather have watched them in the confines of it, or at least have a dedicated home theater room. That's my dream, to have a house where I can actually have a room that is just a home theater, not a family room, not a bedroom, nothing. I want a room where I go in and can sit down and create that sensory deprivation feeling of being in a movie theater where you're just looking at that. You're just looking at the screen.
And, you know, you and I have talked about this before, too. The magic happens. Yeah, the bigger picture is great. The event atmosphere of it is great, all that kind of stuff. But to me, the magic happens is that when you're watching it with groups of other people. Like, I made the analogy the other day. Like, I can take a Bare Naked Ladies, I can fire up, you know, Spotify or whatever and play, you know, it's been, what, since you looked at me, tipped your head to the sides and I'm angry. You know, I can go listen to that, and that's great. But does that compare to going to a concert venue and having the Bare Naked Ladies play as you're surrounded by hundreds of other people singing along and being a part of it? Hold me now, much a hoodwink can make you stop think. You think you're looking like Aquaman. I summon fish to the dish, although I like the stylish fish, I like the sushi because it's never touched a frying pan. Anyway, yes, I like Bare Naked Ladies. So anyway,
who doesn't?
Being there with like hundreds of other people and singing together and cheering together. I can watch Sunday football at home, and it's great. I love watching Sunday football at home. I do. It's great. But, you know, it's better when you can go to the stadium and be surrounded by other people cheering and having the experience. Rob, last year, before the pandemic started, AMC started playing some Sunday football games in the theaters. And you, for like $5, you come and you get some food and whatever. And me and a couple of my buddies did that on a couple of Sundays. And it's just more fun because you're surrounded by, that's where the magic part of it happens. And I'll tell you what, watching Nobody was great, but watching Nobody with a full theater, it was filled to what capacity they were allowed to have. In a full theater was even better because like when Bob Odenkirk pulls off a crazy move and everybody in the theater the whole time goes, whoa, and like it starts, or laughs together. I mean, that's the pixie dust, man. That's the magic part of it. You just can't replicate at home. So I get it. In a pandemic, there aren't any other options. I completely understand that. But as we move past the pandemic, and again, everybody's tastes are different. Everybody will have experienced things different ways. I can only speak for myself when I say there's just no comparison. There's no comparison to watching it at home, like you watched something at home yesterday and you watched something at home the day before and you watched something at home the day before that, to getting out, going out, making an event of it. Anyway, that's just me though. That's just me. All right. Let's get another one in here while we still have Rob here. The Wakandan Forever writes, glorious. No, I won't give it. Oh, we were just talking about this the other day. WrestleMania this weekend, a 2-night event. Sasha Banks, Edge, The Miz, Randy Orton, Shane O'Mac, The New Day, and Bray Wyatt all want a claim to the title. Woo. I mean, somebody was asking me the other day what my favorite entrance was in WWE, and it's this guy that nobody even knows who he was anymore because he came and he went pretty quick. It was a wrestler by the name of Bobby Roode, and he had this incredible entrance with the full choir singing glorious. I mean, it was an incredible entrance. It was absolutely phenomenal. I completely loved it, even though that dude never really made much of an impact. All right. BK Dab writes, hey, John, I find myself watching Young Sheldon on Paramount. Ian Armitage has completely nailed what it was like growing up in that time period at 14, as well as nailed the character of Sheldon perfectly. What are your thoughts? I'll be honest with you. I think Big Bang Theory sucked. I know that's a totally unpopular thing to say. I know it's a super popular show and it's all subjective. I know. And so all due respect to everybody who loves it. That's great that you love it. I tried to give it a shot. Rob, I've said this about Big Bang Theory before. It's a show about geek culture written by people who don't know the first damn thing about geek culture. That's all I ever thought. I've tried watching a few episodes, and every time I watched it, all I was hit with was this feeling of, this is a writer's room full of people who don't actually understand geek culture, but they're writing as if they understand geek culture. And I just didn't find it funny. Now I got friends of mine, Rob, who love this show, like love it. And that's awesome. But since I did not like Big Bang Theory, I have zero interest in checking out Young Sheldon. That doesn't mean you shouldn't like it. I'm just saying that's why I didn't like it. Do you ever get into Big Bang Theory, or have you watched Young Sheldon or anything like that?
Dude, I did not like that show at all, for the same reasons that you. And also, I have a little bit of. People have been telling me that show is just a TV version of something that I made, my film free enterprise. I watched it. I mean, I get it, but I think that it promoted a stereotype of fandom and geeks that I think was counterproductive. But you know what? That's what people believe geeks are, and it was one of the most successful sitcoms in history. So
yep, can't take that away from it. It was more successful than most of our favorite shows.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing in its defense, Rob, to bring this around, it at least had an opening theme song by Bare Naked Ladies. So I'll give it that. All right. Rob, I'm sorry, we've kept you overtime. I just realized that. Thank you so much for being here today, Rob, and gracing us all with your presence. In the meantime, though, where can people follow you in your adventures online?
You can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot for being here, and I'll talk to you again in a couple days. Have a good one.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Do make sure to go and check out that show that he helped work on. It's an animated show on Netflix right now called Dota. Also, go and find the trailer to the movie he's been working on for years called Tango Shalom. Make sure you guys go and check that out as well. All right, we still got some time here. Let's keep on going through your questions, shall we? All right, next up. BK Dan writes, "Hey John, not entirely TV related, but do you predict the WWE moving at the last minute WrestleMania 37 from Tampa because of water concerns? What are your guys' thoughts?" Now, I thought I heard that the water problem going on there was localized and was limited and contained. Maybe I heard that wrong. But let me go on that assumption for a moment, that it was indeed localized and contained. If that's the case, then no, I don't think they'll move it. If it is a wider problem than I thought, that I'm just not aware of at the moment, then maybe they may have to move it. I mean, they might not have a choice. And moving it last minute will be a logistical nightmare, but I don't know. So that's all I've got right now. All right, next up. Kung Fu Hot Dog writes in, "Hey, Gio, are you still planning that Ask Me Anything About YouTube?" I am planning on doing that, which I think was meant to be on Tuesday. Also, remember people complaining about Zemo being weak in Civil War, and look at him now. He's become my favorite baddie in the MCU going forward. Dude can dance. I'll tell you what, man, that is hilarious. Yeah, so I said last week, before I really discovered what my health issue was with the clot in my leg and the thrombosis in my leg, that is getting better. It's getting better. But I announced this before. My plans kind of got thrown off, but I am going to do this still. Sometime in the next week or so, I'm going to do a live stream where it's just basically going to be all open for any of you guys who want to talk about running a blog, running a podcast, running a YouTube channel, starting a YouTube channel. We'll talk practices, principles. We'll talk tech and gear and software. We'll talk about the philosophical approach you should have to it, about all that kind of stuff. Now, I have personally run 3 different YouTube channels and grown 3 separate YouTube channels from basically nothing to over 200,000, some cases 300,000 subscribers. I'm not the world's biggest expert on YouTube by any stretch of the imagination, but I know what I'm talking about. And I get a lot of comments and questions from you guys who are often asking me about that stuff. So if you are curious about that, I will announce it soon, which day we'll do it. I was supposed to do it already, but then, I had a little bit of a wrench thrown in the works. But we will get around to doing that here pretty soon. All right, thanks for asking that, Kung Fu. All right, next up, we've got BK Dan who writes, "Hey, John, hear you regarding Last Vegas, where Vegas becomes its own character. In my opinion, Vegas was its own character in Deep Space Nine through the character of Vic Fontaine. What are your thoughts?" I recognize the name. I don't remember the episode. I'll be honest with you. It's too bad we just let Rob go. Rob would be all over that. I watched the entire series Deep Space Nine. I probably watched the entire series twice. But I don't remember the thing specifically to be BK Dan. Oh, I do wish there. But guys, again, since BK has allowed me to bring it up again, if you have not seen the Kevin Kline Robert De Niro, Michael Douglas, Morgan Freeman, comedy Las Vegas. It came out like 5-something years ago. You really should. It's a delightful little, not one of the great comedies of all time, but it's a delightful little comedy. You should go check that out. All right, the next up. Thanks for that, BK. The Tensa Zhang Etsu Man writes, remember that we didn't recognize Mysterio in the first, more of this. Anyway, remember that we didn't recognize Mysterio in a hat in the middle of the day in Spider-Man Far From Home when the water monster attacked. We were not looking for Mysterio, so we didn't see him, like they were not looking for Sam and didn't see him. Again, a completely different, I understand everybody's all desperate to defend the MCU. I understand that, but that's a completely different scenario. That guy, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, wasn't world famous, didn't save everybody on the planet, wasn't an Avenger, isn't being recognized just in the streets of Tunisia. Hey, Avenger, in the streets of Philadelphia, you're Black Falcon. You can't make a comparison between those two things. They're two totally different scenarios. Anyway, Stefan Dylan Wouters writes, greetings from Belgium, John. Have you seen the Disney Plus original movie Stargirl? Yes, wasn't for me. I was nice, but wasn't for me. Timmy Failure, that was clearly not for me, so I didn't even bother watching that one. The One and Only Ivan, I did watch that one. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't great, but the cast was terrific, but I thought it was all right. Nice little heartfelt little CG animals. And Flora and Ulysses, that one I did not watch. I enjoyed all four of them. What are your... I enjoyed all four of them for what they are: fun, charming, and heartwarming family entertainment. Yeah, I think that's true to say. I didn't love any of them. A couple of them, again, were clearly just not for me, and I didn't watch like Flora and Ulysses. But heartwarming, nice, little charming entertainment. I don't think Disney Plus has put out an original movie yet that I think really brings down the house. I think the stuff they've been putting direct to Disney Plus have been marginal, I guess, but marginal can still be good. And like I said, I agree with you, like on One and Only Ivan. That was a charming, kind of heartwarming little thing. I thought it could have been better, but yeah, I think overall it's to say that I have not been blown away by Netflix or Disney Plus original movies yet. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. But they have put out a couple decent ones. All right, next up. Preston the Kryptonian writes, hey, John, was just thinking that scene from American Psycho where Christian acts Jared Leto in the chest and realized it's a scene where Batman kills Joker with a universe crossover, of course. It used to be, we were talking about this a few weeks ago. It used to be that when you could, isn't it funny that this movie has actors from two different comic book movies? But now it's challenging to find a movie where you don't have actors from different comic book movies in it, right? Like not long ago, like 6-7 years ago, it would be kind of fun to say, hey, this is the movie that's got Captain Marvel and I don't know, and Wolverine both in the same movie. That would be really novel. But today, with the proliferation of comic book material out there, it's becoming difficult to find those movies that don't have combinations in them sometime. So anyway, yeah, there's that. All right, BK Dan writes, hey, John, just heard of a Jedi Academy show coming to Disney Plus. Is this through true your sources? I've heard nothing about a Jedi Academy show coming to Disney Plus. I've heard nothing. They certainly didn't mention anything about it at the big Disney announcement last month. They didn't, or 2 months ago, however many months ago that was. They certainly didn't say anything about it. So I have not heard anything about that. Listen, when you say I heard, go and look on Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, or Deadline. If you're not seeing it there, then it's probably not true. It doesn't guarantee it's not true. It could still be true, but go and look on those major trades. If you don't see anything about it there, then ignore it. If it ever does become something real, it'll be reported there, but I have not heard anything about that personally. Not yet at anything. All right. Let's see here. Next up, Garden Variety Vagabond writes, 1 of 3. John, I have to disagree with your assessment of the comparison of A Clockwork Orange to Pepe Le Pew in Space Jam 2. So this comes from the companion video. This was an issue brought up on the companion video last night. Anyway, I have to disagree with your assessment of the comparison of A Clockwork Orange to Pepe Le Pew in Space Jam 2. You said this was an example of relative ethics. You described Pepe Le Pew's actions as relative to sexual abuse and potentially more. I said more than that. You're oversimplifying and leaving out some significant details of what I said, but let's keep going on here. 2 of 4. I think you have not watched Clockwork Orange in a while. Oh, I've watched Clockwork Orange several times. Within 10 minutes, the character kidnaps a couple, sexually abuses and more the wife. A scene in the book, adjacent to the movie, but part of the characters and culture, where he rapes 2 girls under the age of 12. Clearly not relative ethics. You are missing the point, though, Garden Variety, which I will get to again in a second. The same movie and same acts. One's not in the movie, the other is. Now, this is a trailer, plus we assume for now that it looks like a single shot of the Clockwork Orange gents in Rogues Gallery with Joker plus other villains. In contrast, Pepe might have appeared as a team member, but their inclusion is 100% unnecessary for a kid's film. If it causes one child to ask their parents who they are, or worse yet, research on them on their own online, their inclusion is sadly inappropriate. Okay, so let's get into that for a second, and you're missing the major point here, Garden Variety, which is this. Somebody brought up a question on the companion video the other day, saying, how come it's not okay to have Pepe Le Pew in there, but it's okay to have the guys from Clockwork Orange? To which I said, one of the biggest fallacies in trying to have a debate, and one of the sure signs that you don't actually have any ground to stand on in a debate, is when you devolve into whataboutisms. You're debating topic A, and instead of focusing on topic A, somebody goes, well, what about topic B? Well, what about topic B? We're not talking about topic B. If you have a rational argument to make about topic A, make it. Don't try to sidetrack things with whataboutisms. Well, what about B? Comparative ethics. Because unless the situations are completely identical in all key factors, then it's a complete misdirect and it's a distraction. And it's really just a form of trying to change subjects. When looking at the Pepe Le Pew situation and Clockwork Orange, of course, Pepe Le Pew, they made the decision to take him out. And it was the right decision. Pepe Le Pew, when you actually go back, and which, at first, I don't know if you guys heard me talk about this before, but when I first heard they were taking Pepe Le Pew out, I was like, that seems unnecessary. I mean, it's Pepe Le Pew, come on. And then a buddy of mine said, look at this clip and tell me this isn't a problem. And I watched the clip of a woman, literally like a female character, literally trying to physically escape him, and him holding her against her will, not letting her get away, locking the door so she can't escape him, and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is problematic. This is problematic. But trying to draw a comparison is a complete misnomer. Look, Clockwork Orange characters who are adult characters and are villains and are not used as primary characters in the thing is different from Pepe Le Pew, who is meant to be a children's beloved character doing all that kind of stuff. That was supposed to have significant scenes in the movie and had spoken dialogue in the movie and all that kind of stuff. Now, look, if you want to have a discussion, a separate discussion about, is it appropriate to have adult characters populate the background like Easter eggs as its own discussion, completely separate from the Pepe Le Pew situation, you can have that discussion. That's probably actually a very worthy discussion to have. Making it a whataboutism in a discussion about Pepe Le Pew, who is supposed to be a beloved children's character and have a significant role, which he did. He had a speaking role in this movie and all that kind of stuff, is basically just trying to change the subject. There's not a situation of comparative ethics here. It's two completely different issues. One is not equated to the other, like whatsoever. It reminds me of, I don't know if you guys remember this. Back when The Lion King came out, the animated movie The Lion King, do you guys remember this? There was a little bit of controversy because there's a scene where adult Simba this is back in the original animated one. An adult Simba is like kind of lamenting, what should I do? And he's standing on top of kind of the edge of this little drop off, and he flops down on the ground with his head down. And when he does, a big puff of dust kicks up and starts to blow away in the wind. But as it blows away in the wind, some of the animators thought it would be funny to, just for a couple of frames, have the dust form the letters S-E-X, and it literally said sex, as it then blew off into the things. Is that appropriate? Should they have done that? And all that kind of stuff. And if you guys haven't heard about that, you should go and look it up. They actually did that. Is that appropriate to put in there? That's a fair discussion to have. Is it appropriate that in a kid's movie that you have a homicidal maniac like Joker in the background, that you have these horrific, terrible characters, but iconic nonetheless from things? Is it appropriate to put Easter eggs for the adults in the background? Is it appropriate to have Easter eggs for the adults in the background? You can have that discussion, but don't pretend that that discussion has anything to do with a very, very different situation with the Pepe Le Pew thing. That's the comparative ethics problem of it. Those are you cannot equate those two different things. They are two completely different subjects. And any attempt to pull a whataboutism just kind of proves that you don't actually have a valid argument to make about subject A. Right? I mean, even go back to things like Animaniacs. Did any of you guys watch Animaniacs? Because Animaniacs, they put in a lot of humor that was not necessarily that kids wouldn't get. Kids wouldn't understand, but that was totally targeted for adults. Like Animaniacs was kid friendly, but they would often throw in jokes. One of the worst or best ever is Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. Indulge me for a second. Yakko, Wacko, and Dot are like pretending like they're investigating a crime. And Yakko says, "Can anybody find any fingerprints? We need fingerprints." And then they cut over to Dot, who's literally holding Prince, the singer Prince, in her arms. She goes, "I found Prince." And then the camera goes back to Yakko and says, "Fingerprints, fingerprints." And Dot goes, "I don't think so." Was it appropriate to put in a joke about a girl fingering some guy's ass in a kid's show? That's a good debate to have. Hopefully, I think their goal was to make the joke go over kids' heads so they wouldn't understand what was going on, but the adults totally got it. Is it appropriate to put in adult Easter eggs that adults would see and get an understanding in kids' thing? Maybe. And again, that is a valuable discussion to have. That's a worthy discussion to have. But it is not the same as the discussion about what is supposed to be a beloved children's character who had speaking lines and a role in the movie. That is a different thing, and you can't pretend like they're not different things. They are different things, hence comparative ethics. Two worthy conversations, but completely non-connected conversations. So that was my point in there, Vagabond. And again, and I think you do bring up a good topic. Is it appropriate in what is supposed to be children-friendly content to have Easter eggs in there that are meant for adults? Maybe yes, maybe no. I think you raise a very, very good, valuable topic to discuss. But again, it should not be brought up as a whataboutism when talking about the Pepe Le Pew situation. That's my take on it at any rate. Everybody has their own kind of flavor on that. Anyway, next up. Thanks for sending in your thoughts on that, Garden Vet. Whether we agree or disagree, I value the fact that you took the time to articulate your thoughts on that and send it in. So thank you for that, dude. I appreciate that very much. All right, next up. Sergeant Ward writes, "Hey, John, do you think it will be possible to see a Godzilla and or Kong movie with no human characters? With no human characters and it being told entirely through visuals, maybe in a prehistoric prequel? I'd watch that. What are your thoughts?" I think that movie would bomb. I think that movie would tank. It might be fun, but the reality is, look, again, I think the human characters that followed Kong in Godzilla vs. Kong, they at least serve narrative purpose. And I personally like the little girl. And they are actually the ones who get Kong from point A to point B to point C. You know, the thing about these creatures is, and the same goes for a lot of other supernatural stuff, is that the human characters become the conduit through which we are told the story. And I think there's value to that. You just got to do it better. The problem with Godzilla versus Kong's human characters aren't that there are human characters. The problem in Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and Godzilla versus Kong is that they don't use the human characters right. So without those narrative storytelling conduits to give perspective, I don't think that movie would do very well. I think just a 2-hour CGI fest of just two giant monsters going, "Roar, roar, roar." I just don't know that a lot of people would go out. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But again, the issue isn't that they had humans. The issue is they just didn't do a very good job with the humans. The answer is to just do a better job writing the humans. Make what they do important to the story. Keep the emphasis on the monsters, tell the story through the humans, and make them important and vital to the narrative. Otherwise, get rid of them. So that's kind of my take on that. But no, I don't think a studio is going to do just 2 hours of CG monsters without being told through a human conduit for the story. I don't think they'll do that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will, but my guess is they probably won't. All right. Nosferatu writes, can you figure out this movie based on a crappy description? The very first Ice Bucket Challenge. Nope. Can't figure it out. Sorry, Nosferatu. I have no idea what we're talking about. Next up, Ruben Wakefield writes, given Godzilla vs. Kong's success, will Warner Brothers widen their theatrical films to help mend relationships with Nolan, Villeneuve, and others? Seems like they can kill two birds with one stone if they are wise. I still want a Godzilla and Kong Lethal Weapon team-up kaiju movie. That would be kind of fun. Yeah, I do think they could. I think for the most part, like for those who want me dead and things like that, they're going to keep their HBO Max and theatrical release plan. They're going to. But there are a couple, like they just saw, that they can mend those relationships with Legendary. They can mend their relationship with Denis Villeneuve and make good money and do good business by doing something like that. But it has to be on a movie-by-movie basis, Ruben. Like, listen, Warner Brothers has already said that they're abandoning the whole day-and-date release thing for HBO Max in 2022. They've already made that public. They're going to abandon that. So it's not like they have a lot of movies they have to worry about. And it's not like what happened with Godzilla versus Kong would happen with every movie they've got on their slate. But there are one or two, particularly Dune, that I think everybody would benefit from. So that's why I think they're seriously considering changing their strategy on that. What they ultimately do, we'll have to wait and see. All right, next up, Mike Brandy writes, hey, John, hope you're feeling well. I am feeling well, thank you. FYI, the Sabres ended an 18-game losing streak just to start a new one. That's what usually happens. Anyway, tech question. I need a new laptop, but want to stay in the PC family. I'm a comm major, and I do a ton of writing and editing, suggesting. It depends on what you mean by editing. Do you mean video editing? If you mean video editing, there's a new Zephyrus. Hold a second. Asus Zeph. I believe it's the G14. Yes. There's a relatively new laptop called the Asus Zephyrus G14 that is a wonderful little machine. Like a wonderful little machine. And you can get it completely specced out. You can get it like totally specced out for like a whole ton of money. And you can get it for a bit cheaper too if you want. But you can get that for around the $1,500 range and up. And it's a solid little thing. It's a good form size. It's got your dedicated graphics. It's got your AMD multi-core processors. It's a really, really good value. If what you mean by writing and editing is writing and editing your writing, honestly, I am a big fan of Chromebooks. I know Chromebooks are thought of as the ugly stepchild of the computer world. Listen, I love Chromebooks. Like, obviously, if I need to do Photoshop or if I need to do video editing, a Chromebook is not what you need. But if what you mostly do is a lot of writing, you need your office suite stuff, you need to be able to research and all that kind of stuff, you can get a great zippy little Chromebook, touchscreen and everything for $400 or $500. And I'm actually a big fan of them. I'm a big fan. But yeah, if by editing you mean video editing, something you need a graphical dedicated card for, I would suggest the Zephyrus, if you're a PC guy. Otherwise, I would say get the new M1 MacBooks. But if you want to stay in PC, the Asus Zephyrus G14 is a line you should be looking at. I think so. You should be looking at that. Okay, next up. BK Dan writes, All right, Professor Campea, how long can Netflix continue to lose billions a year and still remain afloat? Well, the thing that, yes, for those of you who don't know, Netflix loses billions of dollars a year. They lose billions. We did a full breakdown of this a number of months ago where we looked at, what their administrative costs are, what their licensing fees and costs are, what their production costs are versus what their income is. And they actually lose billions with a B, billions a year. But the thing is, their revenue is in the hundreds of billions. So they're losing money. But as long as you generate that kind of revenue, you will always have credit. And you will always have investors putting up more money. And so they can actually go for a while. Now, obviously, you can't indefinitely sustain that business model. You've got to, at some point, turn a profit. Netflix's strategy right now, because Netflix pays in the neighborhood, I can't remember the exact number, but Netflix right now pays in the neighborhood of like $12 billion a year. Oh, did I say their income was in the hundreds of billions a year? Sorry, no, it's in the tens of billions a year. It's not in the hundreds. Sorry about that. But they right now pay in excess of $12 billion a year. It might even be higher than that, just for licensing fees. I know The Office isn't on Netflix anymore, but for argument's sake, a show like The Office, they had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to have The Office on Netflix. To have that movie on Netflix, they have to pay a big amount of money in licensing fees. And every year they spend like $12 billion or more just in licensing fees. Whereas Disney Plus, they spend no money in licensing fees. It's all their own content that they already own. Netflix's strategy right now, and they're already in the process of doing this, is to move away from licensed content to original content only. Now, that means their production costs are going to go up a bit, but they're going to massively reduce the amount of money they spend every year in licensing. And just that alone will take Netflix, like even if they don't grow anymore, that will take Netflix from losing billions of dollars every year to making billions of dollars in profit every year. And that is a transition that they're in right now. And so I think they're going to be good. Believe me, they're going to be good. Netflix will be just fine. I mean, if HBO Max and Amazon and Peacock and Disney take away all their market share, maybe they won't be fine. But all things for now look pretty good. All right. Got time for one more, guys. Then we're going to wrap up today. Although we got through almost all the questions today, we're getting caught up, guys. All those companion videos are paying off. BK writes, John, I think I figured out Netflix's long-term plan. With sharing accounts, they're losing billions. When they stop allowing account sharing, they'll at least triple their number of accounts because the people are hooked on. I don't think that's true, but that is accurate to say that will play a part in it. That'll play a part in it. For those of you who might have missed the story the other day, Netflix is now starting, and they will continue to do so in the next couple of years. They're going to really crack down on account sharing, and they should. They should. They're going to start really cracking down. They're already starting to roll out software to detect when somebody's not really the primary account holder accessing a thing, and that will raise their revenue a little bit. It will not triple their amount of subscribers, but that will also play a part. So cracking down on account sharing, combined with the fact of getting rid of their licensing fees, their outlook is good. Their outlook is really good. All right, now we'll do one more. Ike Noelko writes, okay, you never answered my two questions I sent on April 1st. Question was to settle up. We're done with that whole Joker thing. I've already answered that. We're not doing it again anymore. Like I kind of said that in the thing, and I did answer it. I said at the beginning of that companion video, I said, guys, there's like 15 people sent in the exact same question saying the exact same thing. Let me address all of them right now so we're not just repeating ourselves. So I did address that, and that's done. All right. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's installment. Why did that come up? That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so much for taking time and taking a part of your day and being here with us today. We appreciate that. We all appreciate Robert Meyer Burnett for being here and sharing his insight and wisdom with all of us. And a special thank you to all you guys who sent in those live questions. Number one, because you give us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us here involved with the show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. Don't forget, guys, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. 10 a.m. is when we'll be back on. We will look at when we're going to do that YouTubing, podcasting, blogging, getting started kind of live stream. Maybe we'll try to squeeze it in this week. If not, it'll be early next week. I will let you guys know when it's out. By the way, speaking of things that are out, our Movies in 20 on the Academy Award winning film Gladiator is now up and on the channel. If you guys want to go and check that out. Ray did a whole bunch of work on this one. He did a really, really good job. You should go check that out. And that will do it, guys. Please remember to do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.